You're listening to Love and Light with Dr. Lisa, Everyday Living in Peace. Day-to-day living can be difficult in our world today, and most people don't know how to live a peaceful, joy-filled existence. The key to this is simple: love. Join me, Dr. Lisa Collins, for the next hour as I unpack and identify the need for a peaceful, love-filled existence by engaging the challenging and hard topics of life. On this show, you will lean into the healing practices that enlarge your spiritual reality through the act of love. This kind of love begins with yourself and your neighbor and transcends age, race, sex, generation, class, and sexual identity. The world changes when we root ourselves in love. Love and Light with Dr. Lisa starts now. Welcome. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Lisa, and you're listening to Love and Light, Living Every Day in Peace on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with us for the next hour and let us help you experience how to bring more love into your everyday life. We're here each second and fourth Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 12 Mountain, 4 Eastern, and we will have tools for living every day in peace. I have found that when I'm focused on healing, so many tools have found me. Some of the gifts I have learned have been connecting with people, moving in the same direction. That's what is happening today. Today, I'm fortunate to welcome one of those people to Love and Light. Welcome Lindsay Fauntleroy to Love and Light. Lindsay is a medicine maker, educator, and author of In Our Element, Soul Medicine to Unleash Your Personal Power. Lindsay, thank you for coming to Love and Light.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
It is a joy. It is a joy to have you, and I'm so excited to get connected about your work. And it says that you were drawn to healing arts after your own fertility journey, and it
Yes,
introduced you into interconnectedness of body, mind, and spirit. We are on the same page, so
that's
I
right.
can't wait to hear more about it.
Yes, my fertility journey and since that time going into the healing arts inspired by my own personal journey, I see it over and over again that our life will bring us those challenges that we care enough about to make some changes. And for me, that was learning that I had what they called then premature ovarian failure, which meant that I couldn't have children. And so I was really devastated because it did not align with the vision that I had for who I was and my life and my future new young woman in a budding family. And so that devastation became a bridge to me learning about the medicine that I practice now. In fact, it was a very family oriented experience because it was my sister-in-law that introduced me to the flower essences that I work with, and my mother-in-law was the first acupuncturist that I'd ever worked with. And so
Okay.
it that really helped me to see that there's something more than just this physical thing going on, that this experience that I'm having, this disconnect that I'm having with my body, there's something else at play here. And that world of spirit, that world of emotions, that world of changing my thoughts and my limiting beliefs and getting out of my own way became really the healing journey that I was on. And once I went through that process, it took me about 2.5 years to get pregnant and have my daughter, who's now going on 16. So, so I feel fortunate to say that the medicine not only changed my life and supported my fertility, but also changed my life in terms of the work that I'm doing now.
That is quite amazing. I mean, it is all in my wheelhouse. Everything that you've said is like completely the place that I live. And I love this idea of soul medicine that you talk. I mean, there's so many things I want to talk to you about, and I'll just try to like not talk about all of them at one time. But tell us about soul medicine. You're starting to mention
Yes.
just kind of like what's the Reader's Digest kind of like pre pre-K version that can
Hmm.
help us on ramp to some of the things you've been working on for a long time?
So, soul medicine I describe as any medicine that speaks to the subtle and tangible aspects of ourselves that lives between the physical body and our spiritual practice, that we need to feel happy, healthy, and whole.
I
And
love
the way
that.
that I describe it to my clients, my patients, my students is that, you know, everyone has their own spiritual or religious orientation, and that is highly personal. And the Taoists would say that your spirituality is your business. How you connect to your creator, or your idea of the source is your business. And then I would say allopathic medicine really understands the physical body. We know all of the things that we can know as much as possible about the physical body: sleep, diet, nutrition, all of the things, exercise. And then there's those places that your physical health can't quite touch. So when you feel frustrated, when you have a big dream that you can't realize, when
Mhm.
you go through a breakout and your heart is broken, all of those things are the places that we turn to soul medicine to support us through.
Nice. Very nice. And this is like a paradigm shift, right? Because I grew up
Absolutely.
in my folks are from the South. I grew up in Southern Baptist churches,
Hmm.
and then I was in, Presbyterian churches, and there's a real boundary around spirit. There's a real
Right,
boundary around soul. We don't talk about the soul. And in my book Love and Light, we talk a lot about the body, but we have
right.
not talked about the spirit or the soul, which also needs nourishment and care.
That's right. And we are so aligned because I also grew up Southern Baptist church. And so for me stepping into this work, wanting to I'm really big on ancestors, and so wanting to make sure that I'm doing work that honors both the lineage of my ancestors before being colonized, and also the lineage of my ancestors here in the US. And so my grandmother, I always feel like, is looking over my shoulder, what you doing down there? you know and so when I'm talking about soul medicine, I do make it really clear that this is not anything that is going to be in opposition to your spiritual relationship with your religious teachings and creator. In fact, I encourage my clients to do more of whatever it is that they use to find peace and to find solace and to find that connection. And also that this medicine is available for us. And as we look out at some of the challenges that humanity is having right now, we know that we need to go beyond the physical body. The physical body and medicine for the physical body is not going to keep us from the wars that we're waging on each other. It's not going to support the family units and staying together. We know that we need healing that extends beyond just perceiving ourselves as these physical beings. And so, without stepping on the toes of religion, I find that the soul medicine fits right in that intermediary space. I call it minding the gap. So we're minding the gap between spirit and body and paying attention to our thoughts, our emotions, and those energetic currents that happen in what the ancients call the subtle body.
Very, I mean, wonderful. I absolutely agree. And there is, we're in this really weird space where people feel very lost and untethered.
Mhm.
And there's
That's
many
right.
people who, do not go to church or don't have a religion, and those are the ones I worry about the most
Mm,
because they they're not taking care of their higher self. They're not taking
hmm.
care of their soul within.
That's
They're
right.
they're not caring for it, and it's all outward facing, which is
That's right.
concerning to me. And so what you're saying really does make sense to me, that if you do have a practice, this is not taking away from your practice. If you
Mhm.
don't have a practice, then what's the on ramp for those people?
It's start with what you can see, right? And so we can use flower essences as an example. And I think they're a great example because I call them the wellness industry's best kept secret. A lot of folks are familiar with essential oils that have a beautiful aroma, and flower essences actually don't have a scent. They're actually herbal remedies that you take internally. And so you can look at the symptoms for a flower essence and it will say things like obsessive thinking, and the inability to quiet the mind, or something like the inability to take a break when you need one. These are all the types of, I call them soul hiccups, that flower essences speak to. And so for the person that is, I think feeling lost is a great example. I think especially coming through 2+ years of pandemic and people's worlds being completely uprooted, reorganized, reimagined, that there can be this disorienting space of, well, what do I do now? And I like to say there's a flower essence for that. There's a flower essence for intuition. There's a flower essence to help you step firmly into your path and your inner authority. And so the flower essences become that medicine that's a bridge.
Wow. I want to know more about flower essences. It's time for a break. We, wow. I mean, so quickly, it's time for a break. You're listening to Love and Light with Dr. Lisa, and I'm here with our guest, Lindsay Fauntleroy, is a medicine maker, educator, and an author of In Our Element, Soul Medicine to Unleash Your Personal Power. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back on Love and Light, Living Every Day in Peace. And my guest, Lindsay Fauntleroy, is a medicine maker, educator, and the author of In Our Element, Soul Medicine to Unleash Your Personal Power. Before we continue, I want to make sure everyone knows where they can contact you, Lindsay. Could you give us your contact information to the listeners?
Absolutely. You can find me on the internet. My website is thespiritseed.org. And on social media, you can find me by my name, Lindsay Fauntleroy was too long. So Lindsay with an A and then Faunt on Instagram and Twitter.
Nice, nice. So we were just chatting about flower essences. And if you could just walk me through, if I have a problem, I have many problems, but I could probably just pull one out of the air. Um and walk me through what that 4-step process would look like for me.
Absolutely. So in my book, In Our Element, I ask folks to start with doing a scan of their life and to see where are the places where you're feeling a little bit of tension, where you're feeling the impulse that something needs to change. And so I ask folks to rate the different areas of their life, their career, their parenting, their home, their finances, their creative pursuits, their relationships, their sex life, according to a scale that says 0 means it's not applicable, it's not happening. A 1 is yikes, this is a huge area of stress for me, all the way up to a 5, which is this is an area of excitement and joy for me. And sometimes just doing that process alone helps us to really see where we feel stuck. And it's interesting because, in terms of working with a lot of clients with anxiety, with depression, those two emotions tend to be all encompassing, right?
Mhm.
If I'm depressed, everything is depressing. If I have anxiety, everything is stressful. And going through and looking at these areas of our life, we get to see where we are resourced, where we have support and joy that we can lean into. And then we get to see the areas where this is where I need support and how bad is it? And is it bad enough to be a focus of change? And so that's the first step. I ask folks to identify what is the area of your life that you want to commit to for short term, 4 weeks tops, not for the next 10 years, but for the next 4 weeks. What are you willing to give loving, disciplined, kind attention to in your life?
Mhm.
That's step one. And then step two is tuning into the emotions that are present. And so if it's fear, if it's anxiety, and all the variations of each of those emotions, to get really clear, like what is the embodied sense of this situation. Does it feel like tightness? Does it feel like I'm feeling blocked? Does it feel like there's no sunlight coming in? Whatever that feeling is, to get really up close and personal with it. And the reason for that is because I work a lot with the five element system that comes out of acupuncture theory, or that is the foundation of acupuncture theory. And in that system, every single emotion is valid. Every single emotion needs expression. And every single emotion is tied to places in our body, places in our life, circumstances on an archetypal level. So tuning into the emotion really helps direct us to what is the energetic feel of this circumstance that I want to change.
Wow,
So
that's powerful.
that's just step two.
Wow, that's just step two. I mean, that's really powerful because some people don't believe that their emotions are tied to their bodies. So
Right.
we have this paradigm shift that has to occur for people like, well, I feel that way. And if something happens in their body, they're disconnected. It kind of reminds me
Right.
of disconnecting body and spirit.
That's right. That's right. And that's where I really like to draw on indigenous healing technologies. These healing systems, sometimes they exist in the allopathic community as complementary and alternative medicine. Because in these indigenous healing systems, they've kept intact this central ideology that the mind and the body are not separate.
Yes.
And really, when we look at the history of it, this idea of mind and body being separate is a very recent phenomenon in human history. It's about 500 years old, give or take. But humans have been healing each other and the planet for thousands upon thousands of years. And so when we turn to these indigenous healing technologies, we have the opportunity to draw on some of the wisdom that has kept humans on this planet for thousands of years.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
Really, really, really powerful. And a place where we really do need to be. I mean,
And
we
it's very
really, really
humbling as
do.
well for me to I can use acupuncture as an example that there is an entire medicine that considers emotions, thought patterns, physical sensations in a very integrated way. And so, from a clinical perspective, the medicine works. It just works.
Wow. Wow. How about step three?
So, step three is looking for what I call signatures. So, each
Mm.
of the elements has these kind of signature areas where we could say they are associated with, because we're thinking about an archetypal system. An archetypal system is going to have these signatures that show up. So particular seasons, particular times of day, as I mentioned, particular body parts. So for example, the wood element is one of the diagnostic filters that I use in this medicine. And the wood element is associated with entrepreneurship. It's associated with leadership. It's associated with confidence. It's associated with social justice, right? And so, as a person is thinking about, well, what are the buzz points for me? Where does this thing that I'm working on, where does it land in the system of the five elements? That's step three. And then
Okay.
step four is finding the purpose, the why. And so I use myself as an example very much in the book. And so the example that I give for this is, I had started this journey of weight loss and weight management. And so the program is saying, well, why do you want to do this program? And well, the obvious answer is because I want to manage my weight. It's no brainer. But as you keep asking that why question, what really emerges is that I want to feel a sense of vitality. I want to feel a sense of sensuality in my own skin and in my own body. I want to be able to parent and run a business without feeling tired. So
Mm-hmm.
those things are all going to direct me to the fire element. That finding that sense of joy, finding that sense of vitality. And so each of the five elements offers a gift of a way of being in the natural world and in our lives that brings an upgrade to our experience.
Wow. I'm really thinking right now. They intersect so well with many of the the healing modalities that I've used in my own life, and they're so succinct. And so it seems like you've written something here and you've created something that is really accessible to people, and they don't
Absolutely.
need to be a doctor to to be able to understand it. And the way of they take an inventory of yourself, find out what you need, find out where you like to go. um
Right.
that just seems very, very accessible and easy to use.
That was really my goal. My goal was to write a book for my clients, for my patients that pretty much says, okay, this is how you can do this on your own. Right? Like there's a lot that we can do with practitioners. I love my practice. I love the folks that I work with. And there's so much that we can do on our own. And so this book I really wrote with my clients in mind to say, okay, especially when COVID happened and there was a while where my acupuncture practice was shut down. Well, what do? We go back into nature, we go back into ourselves, and we find the healing that's already right around us. And that's really what the book offers. It offers yoga poses that you can do. It offers flower essences that you can self-select and have in your own little medicine cabinet. It offers affirmations and reflection questions. And then one of my favorite things that I use as medicine is music. So I give a list of songs that capture the energetic of each of these 5 element diagnostic filters. So it is meant to be user friendly, it is meant to be accessible, and it's also meant to be, I don't want to use the word fun, but sometimes when we think about healing, we think of two different things. We either think about being in isolation on a mountain in total silence, or we think about this very painful, grueling process. And what I'd like to offer is that love is in service of our healing, laughter is in service of our healing. Not always taking ourselves so completely seriously is in service of
Okay.
our healing. Right. And just allowing ourselves to live out loud and to heal in color is how I see this medicine in the world.
Wow, how joyful is that? Now that's what I call pure joy right there. A,
That's right.
being able to see, to have something that, so much of our helping professions are like, I'm tied to this person who
Right.
was supposed to be my life force. And I don't believe that to me, that's not community.
That's right.
Community is being able for me to give, here's something, teach a person how to fish.
That's right.
Kind of ideal, instead of this kind of like, I love that. And that you can continue to grow and have that healing amongst you, and being able to pass it on to other people. That is a huge gift that you've given.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Wow, that is really powerful. It is time for a break. Believe it or not, it's time for a break. You're listening to Love and Light with me, Dr. Lisa, and I have Lindsay Fauntleroy here, who is a medicine maker, educator, author, and we're talking about In Our Element, the soul medicine to unleash your personal power. Definitely very powerful. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We are back, and you're listening to Love and Light with me, Dr. Lisa. I have Lindsay Fauntleroy here, a medicine maker, educator, and author of In Our Element, Soul Medicine to Unleash Your Personal Power. Can you let the listeners know where they can find you, where they can follow you, where they can get more information?
Wonderful. Yes, you can find me at thespiritseed.org. That is the hub of all of our classes, all of our events, all of the wonderful things that we have going on, a very vibrant community of student practitioners. And you can also find me on social media at Lindsay Faunt.
Amazing, amazing. We were talking as we were ending up, we were talking about how powerful your book is, and these 4 steps to just like find out more about yourself. I
Right.
love that empowerment of finding out more about yourself. And when you wrote this book
Mhm.
and you put it together, like the wellness space, and I'm a practitioner, that works in healing around race and trauma. There is not a lot of people that are African American or Black American
Mhm.
or that have my hue, that listeners, I identify as a Black woman,
Right.
that are in the wellness space.
One of the really eye-opening moments for me was when I started my acupuncture practice. This was in 2009, 2010, around that time. And so I had all of these pictures of family and friends getting acupuncture because they were the only ones that would let me treat them. And so I remember I got a call from a woman and she asked if I treated white women. And I was really surprised and I was just of course, why wouldn't I? And she said, "Well, from your website I couldn't tell." And that was such a defining
Hmm.
moment for me because I realized that for me as a Black woman, whenever I saw pictures of holistic wellness, I didn't see Black people. And then at the same time, there was a lot of research that was being done, and it was saying that, even though Black women, this was a 2004 study, so hopefully now these numbers have changed, but even though Black women are the most susceptible to the degenerative illnesses that holistic medicine can treat, we are the least likely to try alternative medicine. And I started thinking to myself, well, why is that? Why is it that the folks that need it the most are the ones that are accessing it the least? And there are tons of layers to that question, but one that I felt from this moment in this conversation was about representation and how hard it is to see ourselves in something when we don't see it ourselves in something, if you know what I mean. And so when I was putting the book together, I worked with an illustrator. My illustrator has been working with me since the beginning of my practice. And we really worked hard to create the imagery in the book that was reflective of the brilliant, beautiful women that come into my practice. And so in the book, you'll see the meridians of East Asian medicine, the acupuncture channels on these women with dreadlocks and bantu knots and afros and cornrows and various body types, right? We don't all have the same body. And
Right.
so the yoga poses and all of that imagery really reflects, I think, a diverse community so that we can begin to see ourselves in the medicine and begin to access it with more confidence.
Yes, like it is for me.
It is for
It is for
me.
me.
It's for all of us. And that's, why I called it in our element. It's really speaking to the fact that this medicine is ancient, it is surviving, it is available, it is accessible, and it belongs to all of us, that we all have access and that we can all use it, you know. So that's been a really big part of my work.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I really do. And it's what you mentioned about the person calling, really does resonate, because I think what occurred for me is that I didn't realize I didn't see myself in places. I accepted that
Right.
I was not going to see myself in places. And now today, I want to see myself in places. I want
That's
this. I'm worthy of being seen.
that's right. And look at me. That's been some of the I think most fulfilling feedback that I've gotten from the book is people saying, "Oh wow, I didn't even realize that I needed these images. I didn't even realize that I'd never seen this before until I saw it." And that I think really strikes a chord with me around what I'm really up to with this book and how to get it out into the world in a way that is healing.
Yeah, absolutely. It is an amazing gift. I can't wait to dig in myself, and find out more about, about my own self. But to be
That's
able to
right.
see those pictures are going to be something that is like a spiritual experience. Because
That's
when
right.
you go to the wellness, or you go to the bookstore, or you look for wellness, or you see um the things that are happening, the workshops, or any of the, yeah, I don't see people who look like me that are there.
Mhm. That's right.
I
And it's
don't.
changing. I think that, Over the past 5 years, especially, there's definitely been more visibility of Black and Brown healers. There's been more conversation around how do we decolonize the healthcare space? How do we really honor the lineages that many of these medicines come out of? I think that's a growing conversation. And as I was putting the book and getting it published, I wanted to make sure that my work was positioned on the right side of that conversation.
Absolutely. And here I'm going to bring up your research because I was like, wow, I wish I'd known about this research before I finished my research. Can you
Somehow I
talk?
think they all speak to one another.
The absolute. Tell us a little bit about your research and the hows and whys you came from this very grounded way of being. This way, if it looks grounded for me, way of being.
Sure. So my research is in Black and Indigenous psychology. And my interest in that really stems out of first my work as a flower essence practitioner and as an acupuncturist. And when I was doing my graduate work for acupuncture school, I met one of my mentors. Her name is Lori Deshar, and she introduced me to a system of classical acupuncture theory that really positions acupuncture as a psychospiritual medicine as much as it is a physical medicine. And I'm not taking away from the brilliant acupuncturists out there that are treating physical pain. And also, there's this lineage and legacy of it as a psychology. That the five element system is actually a psychology. At the same time, I was really myself immersed in different African spiritual and cultural traditions. So, working a bit within the Kemetic community, working a bit within the West African spiritual systems, such as Ifa, and seeing that all of these systems had inherently in them a system of psychology, a way of understanding the impulses and the motivations of the human mind. And so I got really curious about that. I looked at the origins of modern psychology, seeing how it's come out of what's called the Age of Enlightenment, which did not do well for indigenous people around the world. That was also the time where many of the nature-based psychologies were being destroyed and eliminated. And so I just got really curious about what are the through lines of these indigenous healing practices, what are the psychologies, and also how can that support us now? Right? How can those worldviews, those ontologies, those ways of knowing be of service to us now as we're trying to be better humans,
Mm-hmm,
essentially?
mm-hmm.
What can we learn from the past and bring into the future? And so that's where my research has taken me. I'm really looking a lot at the field of depth psychology, the work of Carl Jung, as well as Joseph Campbell and the power of myth, and seeing the through lines and the connections between that system, which is part of the Western psychological world, but brings so much from the indigenous traditions and gives language to some of those practices in a way that they can be practical and applicable for modern psychology today. So it's
That's
a
really
long answer to your question.
that I mean, that is a very diplomatic, beautiful way that you put that. And I guess what's coming up for me right now is that these indigenous ways of being, um, you know, uh, have been there for so long, and
That's right.
they've been repackaged and put forth, missing some pieces,
That's right.
um, throughout history. And I would say probably our um, children and people who are studying are not learning about them. And so
Right.
for you to draw on the work, um, and for me to go through a whole program and not even hear about um,
Right.
those psychologies, it really
Right.
is poignant.
It is. I definitely feel that and share that with you, having been through yoga teacher trainings or family constellation trainings. All of these different trainings, and then coming back and finding I don't want to create a linear relationship between knowledge and knowledge systems. But there is an entirely different way of being that I think really serves us that we can learn from and apply both to our medical relationship and also to education and understanding the different ways that we learn and the different ways that we know. We can honor that as we're trying to recreate or re-envision what health and healing looks like
Yeah, for us,
for us.
for us.
That's
And
right.
so tell me, like, if there's someone listening, um, what is it that they can do? What is the thing that they can start? How to, because sometimes starting is the thing. Like,
Right.
how do I begin? I love
Right.
everything you're saying. I want it. I'm gonna get the book. How do I start? What do I do? Like, I'm lost.
I would say get the book. That's a great first start because in the book I explain all of these different types of medicines and the worldview. And then I would say get really curious about it's amazing how prevalent these things are around us. So I'm part of an association called the Black Acupuncturist Association. You can go on
Oh,
their website and you can find a list of acupuncturists, licensed acupuncturists in your state that are melanated. So that's one way that you could get started. You can walk into your local health food store and see what flower essences are there. You can do a little bit of research. You can jump online and just Google indigenous healing technologies and see what pops up. But it's really just taking that first step of imagining that you are more than just your body. That's really the first step, to know that you're more than just your body and to know that there is healing available for the parts that our physical medicine can't touch.
wow. Wow. That is um there's so much in your work. Like, I mean, really, because you're embodying not only the indigenous ways of being, you're embodying these subtle energies, which
Mhm.
is a paradigm shift for some people. And you're also embodying what it occurs in the body and the
That's right.
connection between the body, the mind, and the spirit. You're embodying all of that in this work.
Thank you. I like to call us all neo-ancient because I like to joke about it. So, I'm drawing on all of these indigenous technologies, but I'm not giving up my creature comforts of modern technology. I'm not giving up my iPhone. I'm not, going to cook all of my food by open fire. So there is a way of tapping into what came before and bringing it into the future that we're creating. Very much like the Sankofa bird. We fly forward but we're looking backward at the same time, and so tapping into this medicine gives us a chance to do that in real time as we're healing.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. It is time for a break. You're listening. We'll be back. We're listening to Love and Light with me, Dr. Lisa, and we have Lindsay Fauntleroy here, who's a medicine maker and educator and author of In Our Element: Soul Medicine to Unleash Your Personal Power. We'll be right back. We're back on Love and Light with me, Dr. Lisa, and I have Lindsay Fauntleroy here. She's a medicine maker, an educator, and author, and her book is In Our Element: Soul Medicine to Unleash Your Personal Power. Lindsay, how can people reach you? How can they follow you? How can they get more information?
More information, you can come to thespiritseed.org, and you can also follow me on Instagram primarily at Lindsay Font.
Awesome. That is amazing. So we've talked about a lot. We really have. And can you give us like a big picture view
Yeah.
of what this healing process looks like?
Absolutely. So, what may be helpful is if I explain to everyone what I mean by five elements. And so, again, the five elements come out of acupuncture theory, they come out of the shamanic East Asian medicine. And so, each of the elements reflects and represents an aspect of the human psyche. I like to say the phrase nature knows, because it's this understanding that whatever we see outside in nature is reflecting these invisible processes within our psyche. And so I can walk us through each of these elements, because what I love about this medicine is that so much of it we already know for ourselves. And so
That'd
we
be
start
awesome.
we start with the water element, and if we imagine each of these elements as watching a plant grow. And so the water element is the seed. It's the part of the plant world that is deep, 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 deep in the earth, not yet becoming. And so the water element represents in a human psyche our ability to be introspective, our ability to trust the darkness, to trust the unknown, to connect to a higher power. And that beautiful metaphor of encoded in the acorn is already the mighty oak tree. And
Mm,
so the water element helps us connect to our destiny, helps us connect to our legacy, and supports us with knowing from within. Coming out of the seed, a plant pushes through the soil and becomes a sprout and begins to reach for the sun. And that is the active part of our psyche that is becoming, that wants to go for it, that has a clear vision. And so we call on the wood element whenever we are trying to step into our personal power, to step into the greatness of who we are, to bring our brilliance out into the world, to use our authentic voice, and to use the anger of the wood element as a vehicle for change. So we learn how to work with
mm,
frustration and impatience and all those variations of anger. Coming from the sprout, we come to the beautiful flower blossom, and that's the fire element. And just like a flower attracts things to it and can be joyful and magnetic, the fire element is the aspect of ourselves that comes into relationship with others. So we work with the fire element whenever we're dealing with our intimate relationships, business relationships. We look at it as a place for understanding our connection to our spirituality, and also our sensuality is
mm.
where we go for the fire element. And then after the flower blossom, we come to the fruit of the plant world, and that's about nurturing. And so the earth element we turn to when we are learning how to nurture each other as part of the human family, but also the daily grind of nurturing a vision into reality. You know, when you're pregnant with possibility and you
Yeah.
need to do some work to bring it forward into real life, that's when we call on the earth element. And then, you know, that fruit falls from the tree and it starts to rot and compost and sink underground again. And that's the season of the metal element. So the
Mm,
metal element teaches us how to let go of physical form and hold on to what's essential. It deals with the emotion of grief, and it teaches us how to be present to the beauty and wonder of the present moment, of our breath, of each precious moment of life. And then that cycle starts all over again, because that rotten apple becomes a new seed, and it brings us back into the depths of the water element, which is in the season of the winter. And so learning how to be in stillness, learning how to be reflective, learning how to get rest and to replenish ourselves are all part of what we learn through the water element season as the cycle continues again.
wow. That is so powerful. I know I've said that over and over again, but it really is to have it so condensed. I know it's not condensed, but I can wrap my mind around it.
That's right.
I can wrap my
That's the
mind
idea.
around it, and it doesn't feel impossible to me. It feels very possible to me.
It's a
And that's
very
the part.
practical system. I like to say it's a very practical system. It's layered, and it's deep, and it's magical, and it's beautiful, and all of those things, but it's user friendly.
It totally is. Thank you so much. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your scholarship and for putting this out in the world. It is truly a gift to all of us that there's an oak leaf that's available for us to hang on to. And God, we're at the end of our show. I thank you for coming on. This has been an amazing conversation. Um, and I hope that you know maybe you'll come on again sometime. And after I read the book all the way and use some of these elements myself, I'm sure I'll have much more to talk about. But it has been explosive, explosive. Thank you so much for taking time to come and talk to us today.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'm so honored to be here with you. And I'm sure we'll have many, many more conversations about this powerful work that we're both sitting in. So thank you.
Yes, wow, what a gift. Thank you for coming to Love and Light, living every day in peace. And remember, treat yourself like you're your best friend. And we'll see you next time. If you want to find out more about me, just look on the website, lisaycollins.com, and you can find out what I have going on. And but we want to thank our guest, Lindsay Fauntleroy, for being here, and take good care of yourself. See you next time. Thanks for listening to Love and Light with me, Dr. Lisa, Everyday Living in Peace. You spent the last hour engaging in challenging and transformational conversations, all for the purpose of living a peaceful, joy-filled existence. Join me next time to continue growing in love and light through healing practices and acts of love. To learn more or work with me, Dr. Lisa, visit educationthroughengagement.com. That's educationthroughengagement.com. Remember, the world changes when we change by coming home to love. Tune in every second and fourth Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, here on transformationtalkradio.com.